Nowadays in MENA, the climate is very challenging because we have the disease, we have a very high temperature. In MENA region, we have a wet temperature high. Then we have a climate crisis, different in the Europe, different in the US. They should address the carbon capture and the innovation technology that is affordable and appropriate for climate for the region, not to import this technology. We should address the challenging, then innovate in this way.
I really love personally hydrogen as a fuel source of the future, right? But it's very hard to. It's not just over there that it's a problem with the infrastructure. It's everywhere at this point, right? The only place that has like a middling infrastructure for hydrogen that I know of, that as a fuel source, for example.
I think we should get attention for the carbon credits. Actually, this because there is a market ready.
Created a warm and engaging introduction for your podcast. Consider Great Tell Me as a suggestion that combines an upbeat and inviting spirit without any background music. Welcome to Tangelic Talks, your go-to podcast from Tangelic, where we dive into the vibrant world of clean energy, development, sustainability, and climate change in Africa. We bring you inspiring stories, insightful discussions, and groundbreaking innovations from the continent making waves in the global community. Tune in and join the conversation toward a brighter, greener future. Let's get started.
Welcome to Tangelic Talks, a podcast at the intersection of energy, equity, and empowerment with your co-hosts Victoria Cornelio and Andres Tamez. In today's episode, we're talking with Ayah, and this conversation sits right at the intersection of where climate ambition meets real-world execution. Ayah is the founder of AuraCap, a climate innovator, SG reporter, and someone deeply invested in the fast-evolving world of carbon markets and climate tech in the Middle East. So today, we're diving into all these topics and looking at that big question at the heart of this season, how finance and technology are really driving, or sometimes distorting, Ayah will help us understand that, climate action. Welcome to Tangelic Talks.
Hello. Hi, everybody. I'm Ayah Younis from Jordan. Actually, thanks for invitation in the Tangelic Talk podcast. I'm really interested of these talks and this evening.
Amazing.
Honestly, I'm beginning with a medical lab technologist from Jordan. Then I do a career shift into a climate, and I love from old the environment challenges and how is affected in the people, and to do something that really very impactful and scalable for innovation.
That's incredible. That's really cool. So how did he go from a more medical field, lab field, into founding AuraCap? What was that journey like?
Okay, well, so in the medical and in the lab technologies, we are analyzing the disease and bacteria. But the root cause is about the climate factors, is linked in the climate factor and the air quality. And when I release this thinking, I don't want anymore for analyzing. I want to be more impactful and more scalable. Then I do a career shift to it.
Oh, okay. So you were like, I don't want to treat the issue. I want to cut it from the source.
Yeah. I want more impactful person. Like, I don't want to be a routinely person that have a routine work and analyzing. There is analytical analyzing the disease is not the innovative way. It's very routine works.
Yeah.
So I want to be and because it's very linked to the climate factor and the environment, because the climate change, it's not the environment challenges. It is a health, it is economical, and it is socially challenges.
Yeah, it's all intersecting. But then how did your academic background in that laboratory science, medical analysis shape your data-driven approach to climate tech?
Okay, to be honest, there is a lot of challenging because I have a medical science, not engineering science.
Mhm.
So when
Mm.
I link with AuraCap and link with climate innovation, I have a science challenging, a connecting economics, business. I
Mhm.
have a lot of challenging, but that begins me to be a challenging person. That no, I want to be a rare. I want to be innovative. So that's why I don't see the challenging. I'm focused on innovation and challenging myself to insert this science. I learned from a fellowship about the climate and sustainable. Then I do a career shift, not only a science. I do the science and the career shift on 1 year of my life to get the science about the climate and sustainability.
Wow, that was a quick turnaround. You were like, okay, I'm doing this and just
Yeah.
went for it.
Just learned
Yeah.
everything you needed to as fast as possible.
Yeah.
That's super cool. I mean, I guess, okay, we've mentioned AuraCap a few times. So can you tell our listeners what AuraCap is? What gap did you see in the market that AuraCap is filling?
Here is in MENA, the climate is very challenging because we have the disease, we have a very high temperature. In MENA region, we have a wet temperature high. Then we have a climate crisis, different in the Europe, different in the US. They should address the carbon capture and the innovation technology that is affordable and appropriate for climate for the region, not to import this technology. We should address the challenging, then innovate in this way, then scale up our technologies.
Mm-hmm. That's a great idea. So
So
how is AuraCap
AuraCap,
specific? Yeah.
yes. So AuraCap is addressing the climate crisis in the in the MENA market and in the MENA region and in the MENA climate. But it is very affordable for like US and UK climate, but it is focused on a climate and environment suffering from a high temperature environment.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the carbon capture stuff? Because that seems to be so. Like, why is that the focus when it comes to your specific area? Is it just because it increases the temperature even more than natural, or yeah?
Okay, so carbon capture is the capture the CO2 emissions and the GHG emissions. So here is in MENA region we don't have any innovation and any technologies that focus on the emissions and focus to reduce the emissions. But in Europe and in globally focuses in the carbon emissions. So if we are to scale the market and to open a new market in any region, we need to be a standard that very appropriate for the EU and to have access to sell our product and to get a new market. That's why I focused to reduce emission and to found the AuraCap. The AuraCap is very low cost portable device that can reduce the CO2 emissions from point of source of from the air and convert it to a valuable products. Even in a hydrogen, green hydrogen, I'm focused on this area specifically. So we can reduce the emissions by reducing the dependence of the fuel cell, the fuel energy, or petrol energy, benzene, and instead of hydrogen, green hydrogen specifically.
That's super cool.
So the emissions are just directly the sort of sell for AuraCap is that the emissions are it's not just that you're capturing them, it's that you're transforming them, it's that you're turning them
Yes.
into sustainable fuel like green hydrogen. Okay, cool. Very very interesting.
Yes, because there is a lot of technology about the carbon capture is very addressed the carbon capture to capturing and storage the carbon, and there is no visible and economic visible on this way. And here is in MENA, we are very interesting in the economic visible for any technologies because we're suffering a lot of economic challenges and a lot of climate challenges. So we are interesting to an economics as well. That's why capturing, converting CO2 to an economic products.
As you were mentioning earlier, that's the scalable part, right? You can scale it because it actually generates a profit, or it generates a product at least.
Yes.
That's a smart
and
model.
in the
Thank you.
in the infrastructure, like what is hydrogen fuel used for? Is there a market for it over there? Like is it once you convert it to hydrogen, what is the infrastructure for it?
So when I convert it to hydrogen, there is a lot of ways to use it. We can convert it to an ammonia, green ammonia, then use to an industries interested in the ammonia, especially agriculture industries. Or we can convert it to electricity by using the fuel cell, and this is a machine that convert to electricity. Or we can storage it and import it to countries interested in green hydrogen as well. So there is a lot of way, but infrastructure is a very challenging here because it's a leak infrastructure and have at times over to do a good infrastructure. We don't have a good infrastructure here for a hydrogen, but there is a way to be appropriate.
Absolutely. I really love personally hydrogen as a fuel source of the future, right? But it's very hard to it's not just over there that it's a problem with the infrastructure. It's everywhere at this point, right? The only place that has like a middling infrastructure for hydrogen that I know of that as a fuel source, for example, is like California. Once you leave there, then it's basically impossible. Like a certain buses run off of it, certain cars run off of it, but once you leave the area, then it's harder. But it does seem to be something that once technology improves and once we sort of start getting it together. Thank you.
I should notice there is a factory here use a green hydrogen instead of a fuel like a routine fuel. There is reduce the dependence of electricity about 70%. So there is a good economics for this industry as well.
That's very cool.
And zero emissions for hydrogen.
Right. What is the factory? Is it just generating electricity, or what does the factory do?
Factory is electrochemical.
Okay.
It's about the chemicals for cleaning and so on.
Why is hydrogen infrastructure so hard? I didn't realize it was outside of California. It's a challenge.
Yeah, it's very simple technology. It depends actually on the electrolyzer, but the electrolyzer globally, green hydrogen, is about the electrolyzer with renewable energy, but the electrolyzer not economical visible. There is a lot of energy consuming. There is a lot of water consuming. That's the innovation gap here. And that's the innovation I found myself in.
That's so interesting. Can you take us back to what are the issues that are specific to the MENA region? Because like you said, this idea comes specific to address the challenges in the region that you're in. Can you tell us a bit more about what those challenges are?
Yes, there's a lot of challenges actually here because we are not interested. Firstly, we don't have a good infrastructure for reducing emission, innovation, and so on. Then we are challenging about the appropriate work for innovation. Like I'm facing from a grant, from financial to support me. So I should begin from the scratch, actually, and self-funding to build and everything from my scratch and self-funding. There is a lack of support here, but we can move on. Actually, we can move on. We are now in a pilot phase and we begin from zero. That's good.
That's very cool.
So when
Congratulations.
when you are interested and when you focused on something in your life and there is a lot of challenging, you challenge yourself to do it. You more challenging become.
Yeah, especially when you're motivated by what it could do, right? So
Yes, what I can do.
can you explain how AuraCap is addressing these challenges that you're mentioning in the MENA region?
Yes, so AuraCap began with a prototype that it's depending on the chemical innovation. I built in from a lab, chemical and equations. Then I built an MVP by the technical partner. So we are interested in the renewable energy. We don't have depend on any electricity, so we don't need to any emissions more of our AuraCap. Then I addressed the water because we have a challenging here about the water scarcity. And when I get my innovation, I should focus to know water more consuming. So my innovation is zero water consuming actually, is a closed loop innovation. Yeah, is a closed loop and depend on the renewable energy as well, water and heat.
You really thought about everything.
Yeah.
That's so cool. How did you find the people to work with you in this? Was this something is this something that is being talked about in the region and you knew it was going to catch on? Like, how do you build a team around such a innovative new idea?
Okay, firstly, actually, it's very hard because you build a new technology. There is no, like, people know how the technology building and work.
Yeah.
So actually, I'm search about the people on the LinkedIn page and first ask about this technology. What is the carbon capture? What is the carbon absorbance? What is the challenging? And I about a lot of search about the people. Actually, I get from a PhD globally in the carbon capture a lot of information that a good base for me to start in. But later on, of course, I built my team. My team is remotely and on site. So, yes.
Yeah. So it kind of came together slowly but surely.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And then I'm guessing there's a lot of finance that goes into starting a project like this. And you were saying that with grants and, finding the funding, it's hard, but you figure out a way. I guess what are the current challenges and opportunities for securing funding and implementing these types of deep tech climate startups?
Yeah, in AI existent, I think to secure funding, there is a lot of barrier. It's not easy because there is a lot of innovation, a lot of ideas that is generated from the ChatGPT, honestly. But I am started from self-funding. Then when I have an MVP, I secure a grant. That's why I not build the idea, only the idea. No, I build the hardware just to prove my concept. Then I'm exploring about the funding.
How did you know where to go for it? What's funding in startups like in the MENA region?
Yeah, I think people in have a startup should explore not only to explore opportunity, should do a market research about what market needs, what the market challenging, what the gaps, what the market research increasing. Then do a payback, like anything start to give payback financial, then do innovation. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you can't just come out with an idea and be like, fund it.
Yeah, so I am now, not only I have a technology like AuraCap and I don't work anything. No, I am the ESG reporter. I do an environmental report. So I can give the end-to-end solution so I need to pay back for myself to proceed with my innovation. So I advise people to not focus only on the innovation or the crisis or the anything else. You should have the routine work or the payback for online or for anything, and focus for a part time for your innovation to
Yeah.
secure a grant later in.
Yeah, building it slowly but surely.
Yeah.
Can you talk us through a bit what the ESG landscape is at the moment in where you are and in the MENA region as a whole? What's the conversation around it?
Okay, so I'm thinking I talk you about the carbon capture here and the competitor. There is a little of competitor, but my competitor is working on a large scale industries. It's not focusing on the SMEs. So SMEs, it's very appropriate for the MVP and pilot stage, then scale up. But honestly, the large competitor is very expensive, very very expensive for large industries, and I think we can like do a cost effective way from these technologies by innovation.
And with the competitors, like you were mentioning, your unique one of your unique propositions is you can transform it into something. What do they do with the carbon that's captured?
Okay, carbon capture from point source, from the stack of industries like energy intensive industries, and they storage it, or they use it to a carbonate, calcium carbonate, or any way they storage the carbon in the ground, under the ground actually. They should have like a geographical photos and GIS partnership. There is a complicated to storage the carbon under the ground, but they are interesting in the carbon credit market, so on. But we can storage the carbon into a calcium carbonate and into a carbonate, like any ways to convert it to a solid product. It's a permanent storage bin.
Huh. What's the carbon credit market like in the MENA region?
So carbon credit in the MENA region, into area honestly, and the Emirates, Dubai, there's a policies for the carbon market, and in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, there's a carbon market there. And here we are in Jordan interested to build a policies for carbon market. So there's existent in carbon market and carbon credits. Carbon credits is about the industries have a high emissions and don't want to use any technologies to reduce the emissions. So offset. It's spelled the offset. What is the offset? It resell or buy the carbon credits from other buyers.
Are there any misconceptions in the carbon offsetting carbon markets that you feel are stopping either the proliferation of them or that are stopping companies from engaging in carbon markets?
Here in Jordan, no, there's no engaging in carbon markets, carbon credits. But I think in 5 years, the carbon credits will increase very increasingly and quickly increase this market. So we should thinking in the any ways to do a carbon credits. Carbon credits didn't depend only in the carbon capture and storage. It's depend on the reduced emissions reporting and verifying the emission it reduced, and then welcome to this market.
So yeah, because it appears like to me like the MENA, like a lot of the MENA region is just not very, has not historically been very interested in the green transition. They're sort of just trying to get by and prosper economically.
Yeah.
But that means that there's a lot of potential, especially because they still focus so much on using carbon fuels, right?
Yeah.
As an innovator, like where do you think a lot of the motivation will come from? Do you think there needs to be more? What does there need to be more sort of a top down approach, or just more information out there so that people are like, oh, we can use this, we should use this?
Yeah. This is clear from my own self. My motivation is about the challenging. There's a lot of challenging here, and a lot of things that you should be out of box to be a rare, to be a special, to be not routinely person, because it's a dead routine. It's not way to be a special person. My motivation is to be a special person only, and a changer in the worldwide.
I love that. Is there anything that you're concerned about in the space that you work in sustainability? Anything that you feel we should be doing quicker or should get more attention?
I think we should get attention for the carbon credits, actually, this, because there is a market ready for the carbon credit, but people don't how we can deal with this credit. People don't know how we can deal with this. So I think people should know more about this market and how to insert this market, because it's very increasing annually, and interesting for the economics and for visibility.
Yeah. What are the benefits of engaging in a carbon market? What benefits do you see, for example, Jordan getting out of it?
Yeah, there is a lot of benefits. If I have an industry, there is my product will sell a triple X from the sell before. I have opened a new market, EU and other countries, and have more credibility to product without carbon emissions or net zero products. There is a good credibility for this industry as well. If I have a buildings, so I'm interested to a green building, because there is air quality, there is a good health, there is no headaches, as example. So there is a lot of benefits, not only in the economics, but in the social, in the economic, in the environment, because the environment is everything in the life. Environment is everything, especially in COVID period. Environment is a carrier, is a root cause for the COVID in a worldwide. So we should think about the climate and the environment more, and it's everything is linking.
Is there already a worry, for example, I think you mentioned this early in the podcast, about air quality? How critical is it?
Yeah, in this period, air quality and so on is very destroyed, because we have a lot of bombing and attacks. So the air quality and the factors, environmental factors, will affect it very, very, in the people like health in this period and in a long-term period. So I think we should have a technologies now to reduce these emissions and to drawing these emissions, not by economical, but for our health to be more good.
Yeah, it directly affects the people. I guess
It's directly.
I want to close out by asking you, there's a lot of people, especially now, that with the green sector growing so much, want to move into the green sector, but they don't have a green background or a sustainability background.
Yeah.
You did it. You moved. So what would be your advice to someone who's wanting to get into the sector, who has an idea, who wants to work in sustainability?
Okay. So people in the green sector and don't want to scale, don't want to innovate, don't want any positive economic in the 5 years later, stay on the site. But if you want more credibility, more economics, and your economics increase and your credibility, you scale, even your green finance and grants and everything, it depends on the green and sustainable background. You should have this background to scale your technology, to open the opportunities and to get the green finance.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Ayah. We're going to stay on for a couple more minutes and talk a bit more technical, understand your technology a bit better. And if you're interested in that and learning more about AuraCap, you can check the blog at tangeliclife.org. And we'll catch you guys on the next one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm really very happy to join with you.
Let's talk power, let's talk change. From rural lights to brighter days. Equity rising, voices strong. We're building tomorrow where we all belong. Tangelic Talks, energy, equity, pride. Empowering the world, side by side. A spark becomes a fire, a vision that's true. Together we rise, it starts with you.